Welcome to day 12 of our daily blogs, looking at the book of John. This week we've been looking at the topic of justice. Yesterday Howard shared with us a very sad story of John chapters 18 and 19. Today we look at who Jesus is. We're going to look in the Old Testament at Isaiah 53. This chapter is often referred to as the suffering servant, and we know as Christians that it points to Jesus, the Messiah. But chapter 53 is truly astonishing. If you were to take chapter 53 out of the Old Testament and read it on its own, you would think this is a Christian book. This is talking about Jesus. But we know that it's in the Jewish Bible. We know that it was wrote some 700 years prior to Jesus being born. So let's read some of Isaiah 53. We'll start with verse 1 to 3. Who has believed our message, and to whom has the arm of the Lord been revealed? He grew up before him like a tender shoot, and like a root out of dry ground. He had no beauty or majesty to attract us to him, nothing in his appearance that we should desire him. He was despised and rejected by men, a man of sorrows and familiar with suffering, like one from whom men hide their faces. He was despised, and we esteemed him not. Does this remind you of Jesus? Verse 4. Surely he took up our infirmities and carried our sorrows, yet we considered him stricken by God, smitten by him and afflicted. Does this remind you of Jesus? Verse 5. But he was pierced for our transgressions, he was crushed for our iniquities. The punishment that brought us peace was upon him, and by his wounds we are healed. Does this remind you of Jesus? Let's move to the end of the chapter, to verse 12. Therefore I will give him a portion among the great, and he will divide the spoils with the strong, because he poured out his life unto death, and was numbered with the transgressors. For he bore the sin of many and made intercession for the transgressors. Does this remind you of the person of Jesus? So what of justice? If we go back to the very first book of the Bible, to the very first page, Genesis chapter 1 verse 27, we see that humans are set apart. We're made in the image of God. Our identity in the image of God is the bedrock of our view of justice. But we know that humans change the rules on justice, normally to serve their own purpose and at the expense of people on the fringes of society, the socially outcast, the less well off. As Christians, we think of righteousness and justice. We understand justice, but I'm not sure we understand righteousness all the time. The biblical Hebrew word for righteousness is tzedakah. It's an ethical standard of right relationship between people. It's treating others as the image of God with the dignity that they deserve. In contrast, the word for justice is mishpah. It can mean retributive justice. For instance, if you steal, that you will face the punishment for that crime. But most of the time in the Bible, it refers to restorative justice. It means going a step further. It means seeking out the vulnerable, the people at the edges of society, and helping them. We sometimes refer to this as charity in today's society. But mishpah means so much more. It also means holding people to account, correcting these injustices. So let's look at Proverbs chapter 31 verse 8 and 9. Speak up for those who cannot speak for themselves, for the rights of all who are destitute. Speak up and judge fairly. Defend the poor and the needy. This is our Jesus, the Messiah, signalled to in Isaiah 53. This is the Jesus of the sad story in John chapters 18 and 19. Thank you for listening.